Okay, so when you think about making a budget, what's the very first thing you do? If you're like most of us, you probably just pull up last year's numbers and, tweak them a bit. It seems like the logical thing to do. But that one simple habit, it actually hides a massive, massive inefficiency. So today, let's explore a totally different and way more powerful way to handle your resources.
Imagine for a second that some purely logical, almost robotic being was watching how we humans do our budgeting. It might just conclude something like this. Observation. Humans carry forward outdated budgets without justification. It's kind of funny because it's true. The process is so automatic, we just roll things forward, basically assuming last year's decisions were perfect. But what if they weren't?
And that question gets us right to the heart of the problem. It's a flawed tradition. The whole, well, that's how it's always been done, mindset is exactly why we need to question it in the first place. So this method, the one we all tend to use, it's actually called incremental budgeting. You take last year as your starting point, make a few small changes, and call it a day. It's fast, it's easy, for sure, but it has this one giant fundamental flaw. It just assumes that every single thing you paid for last year is still necessary and still valuable today.
This right here really highlights the difference in thinking. See, traditional budgeting is always asking, okay, how much more or less should we add to last year's numbers? But a truly logical approach starts from scratch and asks a much better question. Wait a second, why is this expense even necessary at all? One way is easy, but it's super inefficient. The other? It's deliberate, it takes more thought, but man, does it drive efficiency.
So what's the big deal? What's the real cost of sticking with this flawed tradition? Well, it creates this silent but really significant problem, a hidden money drain.
And here's the crucial point. When you just roll budgets forward year after year, you inevitably end up funding what are called legacy expenses. These are costs that, yeah, maybe they made sense at one point, but now they add zero value. It's just like a leaky faucet, slowly but surely just wasting your resources. And I'm sure you can picture what this drain looks like in the real world. It's that software subscription for an employee who left the company 6 months ago. It's that zombie project that just keeps shuffling along with no real goal or end in sight. Or maybe it's that outdated contract with a vendor who isn't competitive anymore. These are the things that quietly eat away at your budget. And look, each one of these leaks might seem small on its own, a few $100 here, a few thousand there. But when you add them all up, they create a serious drag on the entire organization. It's a huge loss of potential, a huge loss of efficiency, and it's all because nobody stopped to ask if the old assumptions were still true. Okay, so how do we plug these leaks? How do we get that wasted value back? Well, the solution is a radical reset. It's time to start from zero. This whole approach is called zero-based budgeting, or ZBB for short. It's a method where every single expense, everything, from the coffee in the break room to a multi-million-dollar project, has to be completely justified from scratch for each new budget. Everybody starts with a totally blank slate. And this right here, this is the most important number in this entire process, 0. It's not just a starting point, it's a philosophy. It forces a complete and total reset of your financial thinking. It makes you build a budget based on what you actually need now, not on your old habits.
Let's be perfectly clear on what this really means. Every single line item gets wiped clean. That marketing budget, it starts at 0. Travel expenses, 0. All those software licenses, yep, also 0. Nothing, and I mean nothing, gets a free pass just because it was funded last year. And this principle leads us to the fundamental action, the core of ZBB. You have to justify every single dollar. This is the one non-negotiable rule. Instead of taking last year's budget and trying to figure out where to make cuts, you build this year's budget from the ground up, justifying every expense based on the actual value it's going to deliver. So how does this actually work? It's a pretty straightforward 4-step loop. Number 1, you start with a completely blank $0 budget. 2, you identify and list all the expenses you absolutely need to meet your goals. 3, you justify the value and the cost for each and every one of them. And finally, number 4, you approve only what is proven to be essential. When you do this, something really profound happens. Your entire mindset shifts. You stop looking backwards and asking, so what did we spend last year? And you start looking forward, asking, what must we spend this year to actually succeed? Your budget stops being just an accounting chore and turns into a powerful strategic planning tool.
So at the end of the day, zero-based budgeting isn't just about cutting costs. It's a system for challenging those old assumptions, for getting rid of wasteful spending, and for forcing you to be truly intentional with every single dollar. And the result? A massive improvement in your overall financial efficiency. So this leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Whether you're running a global corporation or just managing your own finances at home, ask yourself this. If you started from absolute zero and had to justify every single expense, what would your budget really look like? The answer might be very, very different from what you're doing right now.